We have a mixture here, a couple tourists, very nice, a lot of locals, a couple paying customers, really. Welcome, really good to see them. Yeah, so the news this week, right, the news this week is Bomb City, right? You know, it's, in Israel we have peace, we have peace, then we have bomb, we have peace. The problem, of course, is that, you know, these bombs fall in what are called open areas by State Road, right? But the reality is they're falling in State Road, but no one really sees them, you know. It's like there's no there, you know. And the army is about to give people these SMS messages when a bomb is about to fall, right? You know, like in English it'd be OMG bomb, you know. It's sort of like, well, how's that going to help? That's our army, and that's how we help out, you know. And of course, no, the real big news was you got this big shipment, you know, this shipment was supposed to go to Iran, and we intercepted it and we brought it to Ashdod. And of course, what was the moral of the story was that, as you see, the Iranian bombs are capable of reaching Ashdod. I think we're in big trouble. It should really, it should put a worry in everyone's heart. And then, of course, the Turks and the Syrians did a joint military maneuver together, okay? And so, of course, when they were asked, what is this all about, they said, well, we're just worrying about the day when all these Israeli tourists wash up on our shore, you know, and we have to rescue them, you know. That's sort of the, that's the mood out there. And then we have Israeli tourists who go to Jordan. And recently, a bunch of senior citizens, some of them sort of Holocaust survivors, were in Jordan, and their bus overturned. Okay, this is news, you know. So anyway, there was this great cooperation between. Of course, one guy died. That wasn't so great, but there was this great cooperation between the two armies that they flew these guys back. Okay. So this is the scene, and of course, our beloved president, Shimon Peres. What does he have to say about this? He says, well, I am looking forward to the day when we will also rescue overturned buses in Syria. You know, that to him is like Middle East peace, you know. And of course, the weird thing is, he comments on Obama getting the Peace Prize, right? You know, and he says, you know, the Peace Prize for some grandiose vision and no accomplishment, you know, come on. You know, of course, he just has to look in the mirror, but he won't do that. And of course, Obama, what did he really get the prize for, as he said in his preliminary acceptance speech? He got it because he was able to dismantle the caravan in the gates of Rathmiel neighborhood B, okay? And for this, the whole world is ready to thank him, you know, big time. Lots of news, right? We had, unlike David, and we're a little worried, some of us, about all these immigrants coming in. You know, there's this guy, our very own Jack Title, right? And Yaakov Title, well, you know, because you don't know whether he's going V or two more unaccounted for Palestinians. But he is, you know, it's kind of, he's a weird guy. I don't know if you read the accounts that came out. But of course, Geula Amir says, you know, who's going to remember him in 14 years? I mean, you know, for all he did, he's not quite he's not quite the caliber for Yigal. But of course, Title himself was very scandalized of this Urshenko murder. Okay. For those of you who don't know, it was the bloodiest crime in Israeli history, right? This family was murdered by this guy, Damien Karlik, who was a waiter at the guy's restaurant, and the owner, this Ushenko, accused him of stealing a bottle of vodka. Russians stealing a bottle of vodka, come on. And so he held this grief, and he came back and he just brutal murder. Anyway, of course, Yaakov Title says, you know, we let this kind of person into this country, you know, all these immigrants that we're so happy to get, they're not so great. But this did have one positive effect, this Urshenko murder, because all of a sudden, all these employers called back all their former employees, you know, that they didn't want to suffer the same fate. So we had a little bump up in the employment things to his record. But then, of course, you know, so the police are crowing, you know, how great they are, and you know, capturing all these bad guys. But then, of course, in this country, again, no good thing comes without a bad thing, because for all these new prisoners, the prison service always suffers a round of another round of suicides. Okay, you know, you have to be here to understand this, but they just can't seem to keep the people away. So every police victory is a prison service loss. But the police actually did come up with a good survey this week. They found that because of all the unemployment, people are home more, right? Okay, so that leads to less burglaries. For this, we need police experts? I mean, this is an insight that we pay people in blue for? Anyway, the whole government, there's also a border service, okay? And it's a long story about how the Shas and the rest of the government wants to get rid of all these foreign workers, okay? So the final aim, they're going to get rid of them, they're going to expel them, no, heartless, the whole thing's... But the only funny part is, of course, that in the end they decided not to expel these people until they finished cleaning the classrooms next year. And then, of course, the parents immediately thinking, oh, these kids are going back to Thailand or whatever, I'm sending my kids with them, So they're going to bundle the expulsion with the summer camp in Thailand, and everyone's going to be happy. And, of course, we have our farmers who, like farmers all over the world, periodically dump their produce on major intersections, to stop the traffic and to cause, to get attention to their plight. But of course, how many tomatoes and how many oranges? So this week they finally started dumping their Thai workers on the intersections. And they got a few headlines, but just mostly a lot of traffic accidents. And then, of course, when Bibi met with Obama, they talked about one of the most important things in the Middle East, right, which is, are we going to split the job of the legal advisor to the government into two, okay, this is, I don't know, this has been the pages, day after day, it just boggles the mind how trivial this whole thing is. Anyway, right, so the point is that the Justice Minister wants to split this into two, and finally he's going to compromise and says, okay, only one person, but he's got to have a split personality, okay? So this way we'll get two people for this job, and of course the job application now requires 2 copies, it's going to be typical schizophrenic government action. Anyway, so Bibi, of course, got this this late night, he had to drive up in a van to Obama to meet with him, he got humiliated, but the public doesn't mind, whatever, his comeuppance. So the question was, how did Bibi finally get this meeting? Because when he would call Obama, all the calls would be filtered, okay? So what was Bibi's brilliant idea? That he went and he used Shimon Peres's telephone, and by that he was able to get in to talk to Obama, and they had their powwow. And then, of course, when he returned, he announced that we have joined the ranks of the advanced countries in the world, and he has no idea how we're going to handle the swine flu. Okay, that's basically been the response all over. The only real recommendation is that you should sneeze into your elbow. Okay, now this is really helpful. It means basically no more Israeli dancing. It means my wife doesn't go out twice a week, so whatever. We'll worry about swine flu together. But anyway, so we have here I'm from Rehovot, as you heard, Fanny and I, and we're having in Rehovot next week elections, okay? Yeah, we're having elections, and why is that? This is boring. Not boring, it's the previous mayor was indicted, okay? And he indicted for something called cologne, right? What does cologne sound like? Yeah, in the end it means moral turpitude, right? Who would have guessed that? But anyway, so he had to go out, and so now we have 3 guys coming in, and we're going to have to vote between 3 guys. The one who lost the last election was already convicted of a crime, and the other guy who was indicted for a crime, and the third guy who's part of this Yemenite mafia that has been in the city for 30 years. It's basically, these guys, I mean, even when they swear they're lying, you can't believe it. I mean, these are politicians just of the first rank. I mean, and Rehovot is a town that is just broke. I mean, they don't even have money to construct potholes. That's how bad it is, right? And then this is really a true story, that the mayor's mother sued the city when she tripped over the sidewalk, and she won. It's really a true story. And like they decided they're going to stop with the garbage collection. I don't know if you've ever been to Rehovot, but Rehovot has one of the best garbage collections in the entire world. But they're going to stop with it. But we have